These days, yeah, I don't miss it. It's very intense. Not even done yet. It's designed for it to be very intense. No. I'm telling you, it's like a reality thing. All right. Well, I thought we was gonna have more people, but for those who came, you are in for a treat. Well, number one, I made some adjustments to everyone's exam. Did you see that?
Yes, sir.
Everybody good to go with that? Okay. So I normally don't.
My progress report does not reflect that.
Oh, okay. Well, it's just a progress report. It's not the final deal, right? Okay. So I normally don't grade on a curve, but I graded on a curve this time, just because I was out. Okay, I was out. So I wanted to be fair with you all. So I decided to grade on a curve. So hopefully, we are good on that. Number two, because I was out, I wanted to bring in another guest speaker because this gentleman that's sitting down, he actually made a request. Do you recall it? I have you in my CI class, right? And I asked about how you thought about your guest speakers. And you said more guest speakers.
Oh yeah, we need more.
We need more. So I heard you loud and clear when you said that. So because you.
Are you going to use him somewhere? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's all good. Wait.
Yes, Saturday.
Oh yeah.
Oh, no. Y'all can just say Saturday and just cut it off. What went down? Where, when, why, how? What happened Saturday?
Oh yeah, homecoming.
There's a homecoming here?
Oh, not here.
I was like, there.
Okay, never mind.
Okay, so what happened Saturday? What did you guys have?
We have a mutual friend that we all got together at their place to hang out. We didn't know that we had a mutual friend.
Oh, really? Y'all just happened to see in the same spot?
Yeah, we were talking about criminal justice, and then she came in and talked about her some class.
Good. I was like, ooh.
It's our class. Class tomorrow.
All right, cool. Well, did everybody have a good time at this mutual acquaintance house?
I did.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, that's good. All right, so everybody left happy, right?
I met a new friend, pretty cool.
Okay, you met somebody.
How late did you stay?
2 a.m. probably.
So did you see when that girl's mom came to get her?
No, I did not.
All right, cool.
Uh-oh.
That's when the party ended.
Well, what happened? I mean,
One of my friends who like
do that. You can't just.
I know this person like through one of my coworkers, and so she met a couple of us. So my coworkers and I were invited.
Okay.
And it's two girls that are really close, and like they switch off being DD.
Mm-hmm.
And the one who it was her turn to not be DD had way too much fun.
Designated driver.
Right.
Okay, I'm picking up on these acronyms. Okay, DD.
The one
Okay.
who wasn't had way too much fun,
Mm-hmm.
and we could not get her to go home.
Oh wow.
So someone called her mom to come get her.
Okay.
Just awkward.
All right. Sounds good. Well.
That would be
All right. Okay. So we got that out the way, right? Any more sidebar conversations we need to have? All right. So, because I heard your request, and I wanted you all to get a different perspective. Now, clearly, you all remember Charleston.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, did a great job last time, and he talked about the Crips.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, talked a little bit about the Bloods, but I wanted you all to have another perspective of another organization called the Latin Kings. Jose has been in my class, and he is a guest speaker tonight. He's going to come up here and tell us all a little bit about that particular unit, our group of individuals. So, without further delay, I'm going to have Charleston introduce Jose. Can you come up, Charleston?
Yes.
Because I actually met you. You want to talk about mutual friends? So here's a great analogy of a mutual friend because Charleston brought Jose up here, and Jose just had, just the story is overwhelming in terms of his backstory, his rearing, from him being an adolescent into adulthood. His story is just really, really powerful. So anytime I can share that with you all, especially when we're talking about this particular class being games. I want to bring reality into the classroom. Okay, so I'll let you go. Here.
So I gotta get this thing set up.
This course is Introduction to Games, right?
No, it's just games.
It's just games,
Mhm.
and this is the first semester it's being taught at UTA.
No, it's been taught for several years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I actually took this class at Texas Western with Dr. Greg Gillian, who was a game expert out of Los Angeles. So I'm kind of familiar with the class. But tonight, Jose Rodriguez, and just give you guys a brief background of who Jose is. Jose Rodriguez is one of the first children in Fort Worth, Texas, to receive a 30-year sentence at the age of 14 for murder. He's the first kid coming out of Tarrant County, Fort Worth, Texas, to receive 30 years. Terrence Sampson is a mutual friend of ours, and he's the reason that a child in the state of Texas can be sentenced up to 40 years for committing a violent crime or felony in the state of Texas. I met Jose probably a week after we committed our offense. He came in, they killed the neighborhood watch guy, and I remember he was a small figure, a Mexican kid that all the gang guys gravitated to. I didn't know at the time that Jose was a drug dealer. We suspected that he was Mexican Joe, which was a cartel member from the north side. I thought he was Mexican Joe's son, for how all the black guys, or the older black guys from like the south side, the east side, used to kind of shower him with admiration. So I got 12 years, and I think I left. Did we leave to go to Brownwood together?
You left a few days before.
Yeah, I left a few days before him to go to the Brownwood Sanction Unit, kind of like a diagnostic unit for children, to get like a classification process that we went through before we went to the actual facility that we were going to be housed at. I got to Giddings November 5th of 1991, and I think Jose came a few days later.
The 8th.
The 8th. So when he got there, I don't know if y'all recall last time, I wasn't exposed to the games prior going into the juvenile system. I had never seen games up close and personal. So I had no knowledge of it. So I remember when we got to Giddings and Jose came on campus. I knew he was a Latin king, but I didn't know what he was about to face for being a Latin king. So I'll let him tell the story. But just know, man, for at least 2 years, he got attacked almost every other day for being a Latin king. So he had 2 years of pressure going into his incarceration that I didn't have, and I don't think any of us could imagine having to go through that. So I'll let him tell the story. So with that being said, this is Jose Rodriguez, one of the first children in Fort Worth, Texas, to be tried, adjudicated, and sentenced to 30 years for the crime of murder in 1991.
How y'all doing?
Good. Small today, she was the big thing.
As you said, my name is Jose Rodriguez from Fort Worth. He introduced the Senate, but I was the first child in Fort Worth to be tried and adjudicated for the crime of murder at 14 years old.
I'm sorry, Jose, could you kind of step away from the desk because it's being recorded, so the camera.
Let me take this off because it's hot in here already. But, do you want me to start off some of my backstory, or
Yes.
just want to
Yes.
pick up where Charleston?
From the beginning.
I'll kind of brief y'all on the crime that I committed when I was 14. You know, growing up in Fort Worth, in the eastern sector of Fort Worth, it was, I guess you could say, an impoverished area. But for me, we never knew we were poor. You know, mom always worked. We had food to eat, so we didn't really know that until I took to the streets. I started running the streets at 9 and 10 years old. And then I met a friend of mine had come down from Chicago, like in the beginning of 1987, end of 86, beginning of 87. And he was a Latin King. We kind of met on a whim, took to each other, started hanging out, and we created the Latin Kings here in Fort Worth. Now, it's an organization that comes from Chicago. It's the motherland up there. We started the chapters here. In a sense, it was, looking back on it, it was the blind leading the blind, really. We didn't know what we were doing, just kind of living on the hype, running the streets, hey, this is what we're about. We didn't know what it was really about. So at the age of 12, we really started kind of, I wouldn't say flourishing, but kind of gang banging. The numbers started to pick up, and we were starting to kind of control our little area. But as kids, you know what kids can do, run the streets anyway. We weren't organized, but we were kind of, I don't even know the words to put in sync, but we were doing a lot of dumb stuff, to say the least. At the age of 13, I went to Brownwood State School. It was my first time in a, what do they call it now? TJ?
Yeah, Texas Juvenile Justice
Back then it
Department.
was called TYC, Texas Youth Commission. I went down there and did a little time, came home. And this is something now, when I'm fixing to tell you something that I tell a lot of the kids that we mentor. Be careful what you say, be careful what you ask for. Because Gabriel had got out of state school and I got out of state school. And we met in the hood. He said, bro, meet me down here on Avenue G in McKenzie. I said, okay. So when I got down there, shook hands, hey, how you been? This and that, glad you're home. And the first thing that came out of his mouth was, the next time I get locked up, it's gonna be for murder. And I was like, okay, cool. I looked up to him. He was a little older than me. And so everything was like, okay, we 1 and 2. Yeah, okay, cool. 11 months, 12 months later, that's what it was. On October 1st, 1991, sadly and unfortunately, we took the man's life. He was an innocent bystander doing his job in his neighborhood. I was actually doing something else that did not even pertain to him, but I was in the TCU area, so if you know that area in Fort Worth, you know it's kind of
It's affluent.
affluent, where they got neighborhood crime watches, active stuff like that. And I was looking for this guy, and as I'm looking for him, the neighbor comes across the street, and I ask him in Spanish, say, hey man, do y'all know, have y'all seen so-and-so? And he's like, no. But I was 14 years, I had just turned 14, was all of 90 pounds, and I had a big old bulge in my stomach right here, which he knew was a pistol. So 2 and 2 together, he's a kid, he ain't got no business with no pistol in this neighborhood. So as I walk off, I told him thank you, and I walked off. And as I walked off, him and his nephew, they grabbed me. And these are grown men, they grabbed me and slammed me on the floor. And knocked all the wind out of me. And my fall partner, Gabriel, came up to him and put the gun to his head, and he said, let him go, man, let him go. And when you're a part of gangs, criminal organization, whatever you want to call it, that's kind of what you want out of your partner, out of your brother, out of your friend, out of your associate, whatever. And he did everything that I would have done for him. He made the dude get up off of me. But as he backed up to take off running, I started shooting. Because I felt like I'd been attacked. And in essence, when we look back, to begin with, you didn't have no business in the neighborhood doing what you were doing. So he was protecting us. And that's why I say he was an innocent man. He died on the spot. And so, as my life's always been a coincidence, by the time we got back home, my best friend had been murdered. So while we were over here doing this, she had gotten killed at our house. And that happened on a drug-related crime. Somebody jacked. Y'all familiar with the hood term? She was getting jacked, robbed or whatever, and she got shot in the head. And so it was like 1 for 1. And so now, as the police came to investigate, I had already forgot about what happened earlier. It was the furthest thing from my mind. And I'm thinking about, damn, why she dead? Well, they took us downtown to the homicide division. Once we got down there, started asking us a bunch of questions. And as they're asking these questions, we're answering everything. We don't know nothing. We weren't there, et cetera, et cetera. They said, all right, y'all free to leave. And as we get to walk out the door, guess who comes through the door? The nephew, the man's wife, and their kids. And like I said, it was the furthest thing from my mind. So when we walked right past each other, and she just started screaming, that's him. She's talking Spanish. That's him. They're the ones that killed my husband. So the detective's like, no, trying to calm her down. The translator is like, no, their friend got killed. She's like, no, they killed my husband. That's them. I know it's them. I had already changed. My friend had the same clothes on. And so they brought us back into this room and said, hey, man, y'all just chill right here for a few minutes and calm this lady down. And I still didn't snap to what she was talking about because I'm so stuck on my friend being killed. About 5 minutes later, here comes the detective. He said, hey, man, he said, you're under arrest. I said, for what? He said, for the murder of so-and-so. And I said, man, crazy. I don't even know what you're talking about. I said, my friend got killed. That's why we're down here. He said, no. So, and then that's when it dawned on me and it hit me like a whole slap in the face. Boom. And my friend looked at me and he said, damn. He said, we did now. So they took him upstairs, being of age, they took him upstairs to the jail, and then they drove me to Kimbo Road in Fort Worth, which is the juvenile facility. And where I started my 22 years. Received a 30-year sentence, and I did a total of 22 years and a half flat time on that. And I just discharged my 30-year sentence October the 1st. That's where I started my journey. As you mentioned, Brownwood, and we got to Giddens, stayed home in school. And as we got to Giddens, the first day, what he's talking about, that night after, they orientate and everything, went back there and took a shower. The next dude over in the shower, he looks at me and I got a crown on my chest. And he's like, dude, you're a Latin king? I was like, yeah, well, what's up? He said, don't show that around here. Put it on. You turn it up. And he said, don't show that around here, man. And I said, why? I said, man, you're crazy. So he said, all right. So the following day, just getting there, you can't go outside by yourself. You have to have an escort or a pre-release level to take you outside, being a freshman level. So we went outside. And the first thing somebody came up to me and said, say, man, you a Latin king? I was like, yeah, why, what's up? He said, I heard you got a crown on your chest. So now he done told one person, now it's all over. Went viral, as they say now. But so I took my shirt off. I said, yeah, I got it. What's up, man? And like I say, I'm all at 90 pounds, soaking wet. He said, all right, that's what's up. And from that, what happened? What was the next day?
No, the child hall, we went to the cafeteria that evening. No, that evening.
There was a female, and it's kind of funny now looking back on. There was a female, she was a lesbian, but she wasn't your average female. She was built like a man. And she was about 5'11". I was all of 5'3" or 5'4". And she came up to me in the chow hall, and I was sitting down eating, and I didn't know two of her friends were sitting next to me. And they were gangster disciples. And all I heard was, what's up, King? And when I turned around, she hit me. So when she hit me, they immediately grabbed me and slammed me on the floor so I couldn't retaliate. And I looked at her and I laughed. I said, okay. I said, I got you. So when I went to security, they told me, say, man, when you get out of security, if you hit a female, then we're gonna lock you up. And they had a segregation area called GRU. And I didn't really want to be there because it's 24-hour lockdown And I had just got there, ain't been there a day. So I said, all right, but from that day forward, for the next year and a half, because of my affiliation, I had to fight literally almost every day, day in, day out, day in, day out. They put you on what they call staff escort, and you really don't want to be on staff escort because then people look at you, think you're weak. But it wasn't that I was weak, it was just that it was constant. It didn't matter. We were going to the chow hall, in the chow hall, church, school, gym, wherever it was going down.
It was 60 against 1. He at least for 2 years, he was the only Latin king that would identify themselves as a Latin king. So he got tortured.
And after a year and a half, almost 2 years, we started to see these fellas come out the woodwork. What's up, King? What's up? I'm like, who are you? Like, where have you been at? And these big dudes, good sized kids. And so my affiliation, just because they claimed to be that, there was no bond there, no brotherhood type shit there. It was just like, hey, what's up? But then after that year and a half, almost 2 years, man, they knew I was there. And I made them people respect me. And so now brothers that were coming in, I was, trying to bring them in and organize them, and teach them and tell them the way. And I say that because being a founder, being a co-founder, I didn't know all the things that I had learned and I had acquired about this specific organization that I joined. Now I had all the literature and all the backstory of where it came from, why it was organized, why it was formed. And I said, damn, man, we fighting for all the wrong reasons. We fighting each other. And so as I started to teach these kids, when you know better, you do better, and you start to teach everybody. And they kind of got everybody up off of me. Now you start getting that recognition as a gang leader. And when something happens, they come pick you up. Hey, man, we hear something. No, I don't know nothing about it. Or, yeah, I'll talk to somebody, man. We'll see, can we stop that? But I know you had a question, Ms. Owens, about the...
Yes, I wanted to know I wanted to know the background of the Latin Kings, how they were formed and why.
Started in 1941. There was a man named King Papa. And actually, it's funny that we talk about this because I just downloaded a picture of him today. Somebody put it up on Facebook as a memory. And I had never seen him, actually. And he was the actual founder. He's from Chicago, Illinois. And the backstory to them were they started as a political party because at that time, there was a lot of Italians, a lot of Caucasians in their area, but not just like working, we're talking gangs like the Gaylords and the Five Points, these specific gangs that were oppressing the Hispanics and the Latinos in that community. And so they started along the way. They started this baseball team, softball team, or whatever, and it became a political party. So they say, but that was why they started to stop people from oppressing them. But as the years went by, as it does with every gang, it got out of hand, got out of control. You start to pick up numbers, and you start to recruit, and then you need money for this or that, and now you start to sell drugs, you got guns, etc. And it's just like them, it happens with all of them. It's the same backstory, but they were originally formed to keep the oppression off of them.
Okay.
So prior to going to TYC, you had a very lengthy juvenile arrest record. You had been to placements.
Yeah, I had been to, I was always in trouble, man. I was always doing something I had no business doing. And I had this discussion with my mother not too long ago, actually. I was talking, she had been drinking. She said, I had a couple beers. Come to find out it was like 12 beers. And she started crying. She said, where did I go wrong with you? And we had a deep discussion that night. And I told her, I said, you should never, I said, I've told you this for almost 30 years now. Don't blame yourself for my actions. And one of the greatest things I learned while being down in prison from a teacher named Mr. Poor, he said, part of becoming a man, growing up becoming a man, is learning how to accept full responsibility for all your actions. And I did that a long time ago, even when I pled guilty to my murder. But I told her, I said, everything that I done is on me. I said, you work 2 jobs. We always had food. We always had clothes. They weren't the best of clothes, but we always were clothed, had shoes. We had bikes. We had, basically whatever we wanted. So it wasn't your fault. It was that I was enticed by something else on the street. It wasn't nothing that I was missing at home. It was just that I wanted to be on the street. And as you become a gang leader, people start to look at you. You know what I mean? It's just like if you were a billionaire in here, probably most of these people pay attention to what you had to say, right? So it's people start to look at you different. People start to, I wouldn't say admire you, but they start to look toward you for guidance. But being a kid, our only guidance was say, man, it's time to go do this. Okay, let's go. But I told her that it had nothing to do with how she raised me. It was just something that I chose,
Can you talk a little bit about when you went from the youth authority and transitioned into
Prison.
the adult? Yeah.
I was just telling Charleston outside, we were sitting down. He did something on Facebook. My girl, she was looking at it last night and laughing. I was just telling her, a lot of that stuff was true.
TYC, did you have a recommendation to go to prison?
I did actually. When I went back to court, May 17th of 95. And when I got there, they sit you out in the front lobby area and the judge, what was her name?
Judge Jean Boyd.
Miss Boyd came back then. She said, Jose, how you doing? I said, hey, Miss Boyd, how you doing? You okay? She said, yes, I'm your judge now. I said, what? She said, man, she said, you really grown up. She said, I see you changed a lot and this and that. You're very respectful now. I used to cuss her out every time I see her. But when we got to court,
I just have one question, and you can double down on this. Charleston, Judge Jean Boyd, you all are familiar with Peace and Couch?
Yeah, she's the infamous judge that gave him the 10-year probation for the 4 felony murders.
And he was known as the Affluenza Kid. And this is the same judge that gave Charleston.
Yeah.
And so this.
So I defend her a lot. Yeah, I defend her a lot. Yeah.
So what-
I defend her a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Defend your life.
and to her credit, she's really a good woman. Just when I was young, I was very, very disrespectful. So every time she had something to say, it was okay. But when I got to court, we were in court, and I got up there on the stand, and she said, Jose, said, do you want to tell, and I told him how empathetic I was and remorseful I was, and everything that I said, she just looked at me, she put her head down, she was like, at the transformation from the 14-year-old kid that she knew to the now 17-year-old kid. And TYC sent a recommendation, which was very powerful because of all the trouble I'd been in. They recommended me to go to TDC, which was, Texas Department of Criminal Justice. But she said, Jose, she said, I want to tell you something. I said, yes, ma'am. And she said, first of all, she said, I have to go with their recommendation. She said, it's too strong. She said, but I want you to know this. She said, you've changed a whole lot. And I know that firsthand. And she said, I don't want to send you to prison. I said, well, you don't have to. She started laughing. And she says, but I have to. And she started crying. One second she was laughing. The next second she started crying. Literally crying. Tears in her eyes. And I told her, I said, Miss Boy, I said, Judge Boy, I said, you don't have to cry. I said, I understand everything that I've done. And I take full responsibility for it. And then we made her cry even more. And she said, I'm sorry. She said, I have to order the transfer to TDC. when I left there, went back to my cell. You know, of course, you know, out in the open, you play tough, and you know, you when you get in that little 6x9 back there, and it's just you in the concrete bed. You know, I started crying, and she came back there to my cell. She hugged me. She said, "I'm sorry." I said, "You don't have to be sorry." I said, "I took an innocent man's life, and for that, you know, I understand." And she said, "I'm so glad you understand." And that started my journey at TDC. I went back to Giddens that day, or the next day, the following morning. Stayed in GRU, the place I never wanted to be, for 5 days. I think it was a week. They had us reading all this orientation paperwork about how prison was going to be. And these are expert people that write this stuff, right? They know nothing about prison. Just like a lot of these gang experts, they know nothing about gang. Textbook this, textbook that. But everything that was on those papers, the only thing they had right is when you get there, you're gonna have a chance to go to commissary. You're gonna get to buy this and buy that. You know. On the first day we got there, me and two other my peers got there.
Mario Lopez,
Mario Gonzalez, Mario Ramirez.
Ramirez. He from Fort Worth
I
also.
forgot the other guy's name for the life of me. I can't remember. But we stepped in there, and the sergeant, he's like, "First thing y'all need to do is strip naked." Well, in TYC, we don't strip naked. You know, it's all kids. So we got down to our boxers, and oh my God, he let them first two have it. I was so scared. I took mine off. So when he got to me, he said, "Who the hell do you think you are?" And I said, "I'm Jose Rodriguez, sir." He said, "No, you're 706707. I said, "Yes, sir." So everything he said to me, I know what they're doing. They're trying to provoke you. And so I'm, "Yes, sir, no, sir, yes." You know, as you can tell, I don't grow hair. I just cut this off this morning when I got a haircut. I've been growing it for 6 months and it wasn't barely. And I don't, you know, he told me, "You gonna shave all that shit off." And I said, "I don't have any facial hair, sir." And I was just calm, trying to hold it together. So we went, took a shower, got our necessities. And that's even more scary. First time in an open shower area. You know, you showering with like 40 people, 50 people. I'm like, tell Mario, put your back to the wall, shower, man, let's get out of here. We did that. And as I come back, get our necessities, get to go out to the main hall. That sergeant called me and said, "Rodriguez, come here." Shit. So I said, "Yes, sir." Put your hands behind your back. And he said, "I want to tell you something." He said, "You're going to make it a long way." He said, "You're very respectful." He said, "You know how to conduct yourself." But part of being a Latin King, on the sidebar, is in our literature, we have a code of conduct. And I didn't know that when I was 14, when I was 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. But as you grow up and you get the proper literature, you read it, and you conduct yourself as a man. And so I know how to conduct myself. And that's what he said. He said, "You know how to conduct yourself." He said, "It's going to take you a long way in this prison system." I said, "Okay." And I never forgot that my whole 22 years, or 19 more years there. I never forgot that. And that's how I got through. Because I've always been a little dude. But I know how to talk to people. I know how to communicate with people. I know how to respect people. However, I did get in a lot of trouble down there on my own accord. You want me to?
Sure.
In 1996, I had been there all of 9 months, 8 or 9 months. Was on closed custody already, going from minimum custody to closed custody, which is minimum being great, closed custody being the bottom of the barrel. We had just come off a 6-month lockdown, or we were doing a 6-month lockdown. They were letting us go to trial, and there's a gang in prison called Mexican Mafia. So they say it's not what you see on TV. Let's just say that. We go, and he's about 2 cells down from me. And at the time, they didn't allow white dudes on the unit, on the wing. If you were white, you could not be on T or U wing, unless you were paying protection. So, just so happened, I got a white dude for a celly from Austin, dude named Jason Price, and I'll never forget. He came in, he was all of 5'5" and 100 pounds, and he had on some blue Chuck Taylors. And U wing at the time was a Crip wing, which meant that the vast majority of the black people there, the black dudes there, were all Crips. There was no Bloods on there. U wing, T wing was the Blood wing, and then the Mexicans that were there were, you had Tango, you had Mexican Mafia, you had TS. So Latin King was not a strong presence in prison at the time. So this dude comes to my cell, and I was like, "So you lost, man?" I said, "No, it's 227. I said, "Yeah." He said, "I heard the law say, roll the door." Comes in. I look down at these blue Chuck Taylors, and I already hear the dudes on the run. I said, "Man, I'm gonna get them Chucks. Man, them Chucks mine." And I said, "Say, man," I said, "what you gonna do?" He said, "I don't do no riding." So what that means is I'm gonna fight till the death. I'm not gonna pay no protection. I'm not gonna give nobody nothing that belongs to me. And I said, "Okay, so listen to this." I said, "You're in my cell." I said, "While you're here, you're safe." I said, "Ain't nobody gonna come in the cell mess with you. Ain't nobody gonna mess with your stuff." I said, "But when you step out of the cell, onto the run, wherever you go, you're on your own." He said, "Cool." And he's just so nonchalant, like I got this. Okay. So they called Chow, and he went downstairs, and never forget a dude named Buckwheat. 5 Deuce Hoover Crip dude named Buckwheat. He said, "Look out, white boy, what you gonna do about them Chucks?" And Jason, I'll never forget, he called him the N-word. He said, "I ain't gonna do nothing." He said, "These my Chucks, and I'm leaving with them." I said, "Okay." I said, "They got a fight on their hands." But in prison, they don't fight fair. And so he got to getting on, and I was so shocked and surprised that he was getting the best of Buckwheat, because Buckwheat was real stocky and fast. I had seen him fight. And so another one of his partners said, I got him. So Buckwheat kind of stumbled out the way, and they stopped. And he fought 5 people that day. And I told a friend of mine that I grew up with, who was a Crip from the South Side, I told Deuce, I said, "Say, Deuce, y'all leave him alone, man." I said, "He ain't gonna break." He said, "Look out, bro. Say, man, bro, y'all let him go." So he came back to the cell. He said, "Say, bro," he said, "I don't do no riding." He said, "I see that." But see, they had put him on closed custody by accident. He wasn't even supposed to be over there. He was supposed to be on meeting custody. So the next day they came and got him. He was a little beat up, but he didn't tell on nobody. I didn't see him. That was 96. That was 95, I'm sorry. Yeah, 95. I didn't see him until 2001. Way on another unit. And now when I seen him, he was 6'4", all of 230 pounds. He's solid. And he seen me and he recognized me instantly. He said, "Little Joe, what's up, bro?" And he came up to me and he hugged me. He said, "What's up, bro?" I said, "No price." He said, "Yeah, Beto. Remember we were cellies on you?" And I said, "God damn, boy, what they been feeding me?" And he just started laughing, and we got acquainted again. And he told me, he said, he said, "I never got to tell you back then, man, but I appreciate you stopping them fights." He said, "Whatever you need on this unit, you let me know." I said, "I'm good, man." I said, "I'm all right." I said, "But ain't no problem." I said, "You still ain't riding, huh?" He said, "Never." Okay. But what I want to tell y'all though is that all this is not to be glorified, man. I know it's, I don't even really come out here and do this. They ask me to, and I do it. But
And I appreciate it.
it's the stories, it's part of my story. It's part of my journey. And there was a lot of things that happened down there. I'm sorry, I left out a part about Price. What ended up happening before he got shit. That's why I mentioned the dude from the Mexican Mafia. They broke in our house, our cell. We used to call it, prison, call it your house. Dude came in my cell while we were at Chow, took all of his commissary, all of his hygiene, but in the process, grabbed some of my stuff by accident. So when we got back to the cell, I made him PSA. Say, man, I said, whoever came in the cell, you got all the 30 minutes till the next time they roll the door to bring all that stuff back. I said, 30 minutes. And the dude that did it gave himself right up. Oh, fuck you. You ain't gonna do shit, this and that. I said, you got 30 minutes, bro. That's all the time I'm giving you. And in prison, sad to say, you have to be strapped or prepared. And I had 2 shanks. If you ever see a mop out there, you look at the bottom, they got 2 cast iron rods on the side. I had 2 of those. And so while we waiting on the doors to get it, it was already sharp. I took a sheet and I wrapped it around my hand and wrapped the knife around my hand so it wasn't going nowhere. And I told him, I said, say, bro, you got 5 minutes to slide that stuff down here. I said, they're gonna roll the door in just a few minutes. Oh, just started running off at the mouth. I said, okay. They rolled the door. I'm in 227, there's 34 cells, so my cell's right down by the stairs. So went down and I'm waiting for him on one row. And as he came down the stairs, said, what that shit you was talking, man? And I hit him. Boom! I hit him right here. And I just heard him. And I said, that's what I was saying. And boom, I started hitting. I started stabbing. I stabbed him 41 times. And he didn't die. And I got lucky because he tried to blackmail me through the mail. He said, send $500 to my books and I won't press charges. But obviously, no, in prison, read your letters. And so that's how I got lucky. And from that day forward, I never touched another shank while I was in prison for the next 19 years. And it's kind of what they say, you learn your lesson. Not to say I didn't have any more fights, but I didn't play with no more knives. He got lucky, and I got lucky because when he was on the ground, I was already in the mindset of just killing him, That's what you do to people that disrespect you in prison, that take advantage of you. That's what you do, and it's something that you learn because you see it in prison. It's the everyday thing. It's I wouldn't say the norm, but it's the norm, And I'll never forget the officer Terry, like I said, it's 34 cells long, and he was way at the front. And when I was stabbing this dude, he let out what I call a death scream. And I'll never forget what it sounds like, and I haven't heard one since. But that man, he heard it over all the ruckus on the prison wing. He heard it. And he came back and he grabbed me. He said, Rodriguez. And he grabbed me. And I was so blanked out that I reared back at him and he let me go. But he grabbed this guy and dragged him all the way up there. I ran into that guy about 5 years later. I was going to get my wisdom teeth pulled out. And he said, look out, man, day room. I said, yeah, what's up? He said, you don't remember me, do you? I said, well, you hiding in the cell and I can't see up 3 road. So what's your name? What's going on? He said, Beto 1, you win. I said, yeah, I was over there. I said, man, just spit out what you got to say, man. What's up? He said, it's me, Oscar. And I said, okay. I said, you still feeling some type of way? What's going on? You want to come on down? Tell them bring you down there. He said, I'm going to see you when you get on the run. And usually what that means is guys can unlock their door. They got their doors rigged and they're going to catch you on the run and do something to you. I said, okay, man. I got on the run, I passed by a cell, and I just looked at him. you know what time it is? Well, then nothing happened. It's just one of the intimidation things that these gang dudes in prison do. They'll intimidate you. Oh, you know what you got coming. Okay. Don't disrespect me no more. You won't have no more coming. That was a part of my life where, because my gang was not a factor in prison at the time, their gang was very popular and populated. You know, they felt like they could intimidate people and they could run over you, and this was their house, so they could do. Ever since I was a kid, and as I grew up, you're not gonna do me any kind of way. It's just the way it is. That was one of the worst things that happened while I was in prison, and nothing like that ever happened again. You know, I went on to do 19 years, 19 and a half years.
I'm sorry, Jose, can I stop you? I just wanna go back a little bit. You said at the age of 12, you were a Latin King, correct? What attracted you at the age of 12 to join that particular gang? What was the motivation?
Well, in our neighborhood, there was no gangs yet,
Okay.
right? We had just,
Our organization.
yeah, organizations, we had just finished breakdancing. 87, we had just stopped breakdancing. And then that's when your computer love came in, and you know, your Roger and the Zap, so we started going there.
I don't think they know about computer love.
Yeah, it's a young crowd. It's yeah.
The slow jam, right? The slow jam started to take effect, so we kind of slowed down. You know, we had a dance crew, so there was no gang activity going on at that time. And so all of our friends was like, shit, you doing it, let's do it, you know. But it was the I think what caught our attention was, here comes this guy from a whole nother state, from Chicago, from the big windy city. You know, he's got this pretty black and gold on, you know, and back then they used to wear what they call party sweaters. It's like well, you know, in college they have them, the Kappa sweater, with the sweater with the two pockets right here, and they got the.
It's a cardigan.
Yeah. So, you know, they got the, you know, black and gold, and he got LK on it, and I'm like, you know, well, what's that? He said, oh, bro, we Latin Kings. I said, okay. And so, you know, it kind of drew my attention to that, you know, being that he was from way somewhere else, kind of like as the Crips and the Bloods. They came from California and just kind of enticed everybody with their, whatever it was they came down with, you know. That's kind of what drew me to it.
I got a question. So, you mentioned the judge. How was your PD at the time? Was he advising you, or giving you guidance, or you just kind of running you through the system?
No, actually, the lawyer that I had didn't want to come to court, right? His name was Paul Snell. He didn't like me because when he got me the 30 years, I got myself the 30 years, but you know what I'm saying.
I got you.
He went in there and plea bargained for that.
He plea bargained for 30
Yeah, because at the time he wanted $5,000 and I didn't have it at the time. He said, no, I need it today. I said, I don't got it, man. You know I'm good for it, but I don't got it right now. He said, okay. He went in there and plea bargained for 30 years. His name was Paul Snell. And when he came to visit me after they gave me those 30 years, I told him, when I come home, I'm going to kill you. And he looked at me in my eyes and he said, you serious? I said, absolutely.
Hey, let me just interject. See, man, they was selling dope. He was like a young kingpin. So most of the black kids thought it was a big time kingpin on the north side of Fort Worth called Mexican Joe. We thought that was Mexican Joe's son. What was the journalist lady name? Debbie? Was it Debbie Price?
I forgot her last name. I know her first name was Debbie.
We're the first generation of children in the state of Texas who began to commit capital murder. So this is starting to make headlines, not just in Texas, but around America. So they done this big write-up of, and the name of the article was called Children Who Kill with No Remorse. So so it was like 5 of us who was in there for murder that they interviewed 3 of us. So me, Jose, and someone else. His interview with her set the narrative for children who kill with no remorse. He was a kid with no remorse. He seemed heartless. He hurt himself, and he hurt every other kid that committed a violent crime after him from that interview. She destroyed him when she wrote that article. Kids who kill with no remorse. I come from a good background, so my heart wasn't cold. I wasn't angry. I was more or less scared, so I was real truthful. On the other hand, he was pretending to be a hardened criminal. He had been to placements, he had been to Brownwood. They had already had 2 attempted murders that they had served time for, him and Gabriel. They was hanging out with prostitutes. They was smoking crack at 12 and 13. So interviewing him, coming down off drugs, having just got 30 years. So she didn't give him a fair shot. So yeah, I remember that article. It was Kids Who Kill with No Remorse.
And that's what I told him. Because I knew he was crooked, you know. I just, you know, let's just leave it there. But my attorney, when I came to court in 95, he pulled me to the side and said, "Hey man, I only got 2 hours with you. Can you tell me your story real quick and I'll tell you what I can do?" I said, "Yeah." So I ran it down to him. And he said, "What?" He said, "Miss Boyd just came to talk to you, right?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "We might have a shot." Okay. He knows me all of 2 hours. He was in there shooting his shot for me, you know. And when I say he was in there arguing, and everything they said, he shot it down. Scott Hamill, Mr. Hamill came to court with me. He was in my capital offender group, which is in TYC and getting state home school, you go through a capital offender group before you go to court. And as far as I know, I've never known nobody to get through that program as far as saying they faked it to make it. You cannot fake that program. You just can't. There's just no way around it. That's how good that program was for us. There's no way to fake it. And Mr. Hamill got up there and started saying a lot of things that weren't. And that lawyer that known me all of 2 hours shot him down and told him, "Say, man," he said, "everything that you said here is what they wanted you to say, right?" And he said, "Yes." He said, "That's not what we want to hear. We want to hear because you were in his capital offender group. We want to hear your recommendation, your statement, everything from you." And he had to come on with it. And Miss Boyd sat up there and cried. Because she knew. She knew. But he did the best he could for me, and I told him how much I appreciated him. You know, he did the best he could. But their recommendation is just like I tell you guys about these experts that know these textbooks and stuff. When you go back to court, all they know is what's written down on this paper. You know, they keep a daily log of you. So if you've been fighting for the last year and a half every day, oh, Jose got in another fight today. Oh, this time Jose jumped on one of his rivals. Oh, they beat him up today. Oh, he beat 2 people up today. So on and so forth. So that's all they know is what they write down. They don't know you. Well, Scott Hamill knew me because I was in that group. And he's seen firsthand the remorse, the victim empathy. He's seen me step back into my victim's shoes as a role play and play the victim instead of the murderer. You know, he's seen all that. He dealt with me in there.
They call that psychodrama. So we was going through psychodrama therapy where we used to have to, all kids didn't go through the program. So it was a capital offender for children who just committed murder. So we would have to get into that program and reenact our crimes. So we would spend weeks, 2 weeks, 4 to 6 hour group sessions with some of the world's best psychiatrists and psychologists reenacting our crime. So we play both the crime of the perpetrator, and then at some point you got to play the role of your victim. So when they shoot you, they cut the lights off, put the blankets over you, and so you got a bunch of people around you asking you, how does it feel? So what they're trying to do is evoke those emotions that you probably would think your victim has, so you can try to relate to what your victim feels, so you can try to at least have some type of empathy for, the crime that you committed, as well as human life overall. So
My roommate, his name was David Caldera. When we got to 1B, which was Capital Offender Dorm, he said, "Oh man, we can fake this shit today." I said, "All right." We got in that group. We started telling them life stories. Once you tell your life story first, which is gonna take several weeks, and then you go into a capital offender cycle, reenactment. And when it came around time to him to do his, after we done his, he didn't even know he was crying. He was crying so much. And I said, "You did a good job." I said, "That was all fake, huh?" And he said, "F you, man." Because there is no way. That was the best program that we ever had. But they taught us a lot of things different, TYC. It was very, very different from TDC, from prison to youth facility. Two totally different worlds. Now they're similar. Now they're the same. Things have changed. But we had what you call house parents, and we had people that were really like parents to us. You got in trouble. I used to get slapped in the head a lot. "Hey, what's wrong with you? When you gonna learn, man? These people ain't your friends. What you doing?" And they sit down and talk to you, and they sit down and counsel you one-on-one. They sit down and, you learn so much from them. Or at least, we did. But I lost track. They said something about the lawyer.
But now he's gone. So I want to talk a little bit about that one particular experience you had with that one individual when you were telling your story.
About the university.
Dr. Lynn's class.
Yeah.
You guys remember my crime?
It's what we call
Yeah.
restorative justice. Anybody familiar with that term?
Yeah.
Restorative justice.
All right.
Restorative justice. Are you familiar with it?
Well, we've had it in one of our classes.
Yes, I think I might have talked about it.
Yeah.
But it's essentially when you have a victim and an offender, and they're aiding or that particular victim's family, and they come together because Jose was very contrite about his offense, and the victim or the victim family or both will come together and they will sit down and resolve their issues.
Which overall the community benefits. So that's been proven to be the best practice is restorative justice practices because it repairs not just the victim but also the offender, which ultimately repairs the community.
I'm sorry, Jose.
Yeah.
Proceed.
You guys remember how I told you about the crime and how it happened and everything? It's why my life's been a coincidence, and how I'm gonna tell you how it comes full circle. I had just been out 3 months, 3 or 4 months. It had to have been February or March, something like that, of 2014. Charleston called me and said, "Hey man, I need you to come speak to college with me." I had somebody, but she had something to do. She had a I said, "Yeah." I said, "I'll come up there." And I went up there and went to Dr. Lynn's class. And as always, Charleston speaks, and then he introduced me. I came up there, and I told him my story. And back there in the back, there was 2 or 3 young Latinas, young Hispanic women. And they were just listening, but this one particular one, she was just like very intrigued, like listening, paying attention. So when I finished, they said, "Hey, anybody have any questions?" And she was like, "Yes, I have a question." Yes, ma'am. she started shooting them out there, rapid fire, boom, 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 boom. And I started answering, and all her questions were based on victim empathy and remorse. You know, where'd you learn? How'd you learn? You know, how do you feel? And I answered everything she wanted to know. She said, okay. She said, good job. So, you know, we left, and she went up to Dr. Linton. And I didn't learn this until Charleston told me a couple days later. She said, you know, I know this story from somewhere. And he's like, yeah. He said, you know, they're really good. And this is what redemption looks like. And she said, no, but I know this story. I just can't put my finger on it. She said, but I know. And she went on to tell him that she went home that night and she over dinner talking to her friends. And she was telling them, you know, what had, you know, happened in class today. And telling them, you know, there was a man up there, he was talking, this is what he was talking about. And her mother stopped her mid-sentence. And she said, you know, she said, the man that was up there speaking today is the man that murdered your uncle. And she said, I know the story. She said, but, she said, you go back to class and you tell Dr. Lynn to reach out to that young man and let him know that we forgive him, that we're not mad at him. And so Charleston called me. He's like, oh, you see Dr. Lynn's Facebook page? I said, no. He said, man, go read that right now. I said, all right. So what's going on? He said, man, go read it. At the same time, he was calling my fall partner, Gabriel, to tell him the same thing. So when I went and read it, I literally sat on my porch for a couple of days and just cried because for all the bad things I had done, for all the negativity I, you know, been involved with, nobody had ever forgiven me for anything. You know, I had barely forgiven myself. And to hear that coming from someone, from the people, you know, that I had took from, that I had taken so much from, you know, their husband, their father, their protector, neighborhood protector, you know, their provider, everything. That they had forgiven me, to me was, I don't want to say one of the highlights of my life, but it was the highlight of my life, you know. Because inside, even though I cried on the outside, inside, I don't even know how to articulate it to you, how I was feeling. It was super overwhelming. Like all I could tell them, you know, thank you. And it will never happen again. And it hasn't. You know, I try to, when I came home, Charleston was one of the, you know, like the guy in my life. You know, we've known each other 30 years. And so for him to be out here doing all these things, already going to school, college, and, you know, being involved with Hype, started telling me about Hype. You know, we're doing this, we're doing that. I'm like, okay, I need this, you know, because in my mind, having been a gang leader for so many years, you come home, and now my only job in my mind was to come home and fix all the things that I left undone, which means all the people I left out here blind, teaching the right way. Say, man, we can help you get a GED, I can help you get a job, I can help you do this, I can help you go to college. But in order for me to do that, I had to do it myself. So I got a job, went to college, started doing all the things that I was trying to teach them how to do. And for me, that was my atonement, you know, trying to atone all my wrongs by trying to show these kids and these younger than me people the right way.
Do we have any other questions about the Latin Kings, different, their association with, maybe, I know, Charleston, you talked a little bit about these gangs are starting to become hybrid gangs.
Oh, that's what the textbook describe them as now. That's what your new modern day gang unit call them Hobbit gangs. You see Crips and Bloods in the same cliques. You don't really see hybrid gangs within the Hispanic community. They don't cross those lines, but in the in the black community, you see that's where the term gang come from. So you'll see guys that's Crips and Bloods in the same rap clique or the same neighborhood clique, but not so with the Asian gangs, not so with the Hispanic gangs. So the hybrid gangs is only forming within the black community.
Okay. Now, my second question to you is, I know you gave acronyms about Crips and Bloods, Latin Kings. Why that term, Latin Kings?
It's the acronym, it's a whole acronym. But it's public knowledge. You can go on the computer and you can look it up and there it is for everybody to see. But it is an acronym as well.
Okay, because I remember that the acronym that Charleston described, he said Crips, Community, Revolution, and Progress.
Yeah, that's.
Brothers leading others out of darkness.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember that. So I'm just a little curious as to Latin Kings.
He can't publicly say it,
Yeah.
Okay.
but it's publicly known. So if you can Google it, yeah, it's publicly known. But he can't publicly say it.
Okay.
No,
Oh, now listen.
I'm not afraid of no retaliation, nothing like that. It's just that,
If spoken, it's something clear.
Yeah,
Okay,
like,
that's okay.
it's just fair. I mean, anybody can go see it. It's not secret anymore.
So listen, when I took gang class, we had to read the Latin Kings book, right? The author who wrote the Latin Kings book, that was that was in our syllabus. So when I got the book, I took it to them. Say, man, I was excited. They took the book from me. Yeah, Gabriel and them took the book from me. So go ahead.
Part of that is that within our circle, the book is sacred, right? Because it's really teaching you how to conduct yourself as a normal human being, right? But people have taken it so far out of context and they misunderstand even some of our peers, they misunderstand it. But I mean, it's public knowledge that you can go on the computer, people go and can read the whole manifesto, the whole book. You have several brothers that have written books about the nation. And they've been ridiculed, but why do you ridicule them? You know what I'm saying? They're just trying to shine a light, really. This is what it's really about.
Before Jose.
It's like this, nobody wants to talk about it, because there's so much bloodshed on it. There's so much negative and so much crime on it. Nobody wants to speak on it because that's how they portray you when they see you in public. That's how they, when the gang unit sees me, hey, how you doing? What's up? But when they see him, oh, come over here. What do you got on you? This, because they know I go out and speak in the community and people gonna listen. But they think he's gonna go steal a car or go shoot something up, this and that. I don't even know how to explain gang unit, man. I don't even know why they exist, but I mean, they know nothing. Like, for as many books as they read and meetings that they have, they know absolutely nothing about what's going on the street.
That brings me to my next point, because this is the last time Charleston was here, he talked a little bit about intervention, crisis intervention, police intervention in terms of trying to help or give back to the community. Did you see that image or that particular illustration being demonstrated to you?
No. I bring up a point. The other day, remember when I called you, said the mayor was over there? Across the street from my friend's house, there's some real political couple that live there, neighborhood crime watch type people. So every year they have what they call National Night Out, and they barbecued and they made all this food. chief of police was there, the mayor was there, the fire chief, everybody was there. So me and my boy said, hey man, he just got off work, bro, let's go over there and get something. He said, you for real? I said, yeah, man. We walked right over there. Mayor, hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? So chief, hey, how y'all doing? There was police there in regular clothes, had a polo on, said, I said, say man, he said, if we put something together like this in the hood, y'all gonna show up? He said, if you invite us, we'll show up. I said, all right. I said, I'll keep that in mind. He said, I'm serious, man. I said, okay. And the mayor caught the tail end of it. She said, invite us to what? And I said, if we put a barbecue on in the hood, are you gonna come? She said, if y'all invite us, we will come. So I said that to say that the intervention is there, but because you have so many people that are afraid to talk to these people, they think, oh, if I talk to the police, I'm a snitch, or you know, you're not really who you say you are because you're talking to them. You know, I don't even know how to really explain it. He explains it better, but the opportunity for intervention is there. It's just the bridge that's
On both sides.
on both
On
sides.
both sides, law enforcement and community
They're
side.
scared to come over here. We're scared to go over there because you don't know what to expect because they only know what they think they know. And we only know what we think we know. But really, if you cross the bridge, there could be a lot of help. You know, this happened in had to have been 16 or 17. I was driving home, and before I started driving home, I was drinking. We drank, getting full of that Grey Goose. And my boy said, "Don't go home, man. Just stay here." I said, "All right." So we seen a bunch of gang unit laws passing by. Bro, just stay here, man. Don't go nowhere. Just let that wear off. I said, all right. So I let it wear off. I got in my truck. I started driving home. But they trapped me. They followed me, trapped me, pulled me over. They said, "Hey, can we search your car?" I said, "No." "Why not? You got something?" I said, "I don't." I said, "But I ain't doing nothing wrong. I wasn't speeding. I wasn't passing no stop sign. I wasn't doing nothing wrong." He said, "Okay, give me." I gave him what he needed. So the rookie went to the car. They punched my name up, but he don't know no better. He said, "Oh, his name's so and so." So the other veteran goes to the car. He said, "What'd you say?" So he looks at my file. He said, "Oh." He said, "Look who we got here." He said, "We got the leader." He said, "Come step out the car for me." I said, "You got a reason?" He said, "Now I got probable cause." Step out the car, put your hands. He searched me, searched my car, don't find nothing. I said, "Say, let me ask you something, man." I said, why are you messing with me? Why are you harassing me?" He said, "First of all, because you're the leader of Land Kings." And I said, "That's what that computer told you?" He said, "Yep." I said, "Did it tell you that I just came home from doing 22 years in prison?" He said, "No." I said, "Did it tell you that I work in this community helping kids, mentoring kids, sending people to GED class, sending people to college, getting people jobs?" I said, "Did it tell you all that?" He said, "No." I said, "You see all these walls around here? They're all painted white now. There ain't no more gang graffiti in my neighborhood. You see all that?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, I made that happen, man." I said, "You see the gang violence going down in this neighborhood?" I said, "I've been home 7 months now." I'm sorry. I said, "I've been home a few years now, like 3 years and 7 months, something like that." And he said, "Who do you mean?" So Charleston printed me up some cards. I gave him my cards. And he said, "Man," he said, "we didn't know none of that." I said, "I know you didn't." I said, well, now you know, man. I said, don't mess with me, man. I ain't doing nothing to y'all. I ain't doing nothing wrong. But it's that stamp that you wear on your back. You know, some things you can't wash off. I can't wash my tattoos off. You know, for as much right as I can do, I can't wash it off. You know, it doesn't go away. But because I'm a gang member or affiliate, whatever you want to call it, I'm not in the streets gang banging. I ain't in the streets hurting nobody. But that's what they think because you are who you are. You know? And man, for the life of me, I wish I could step into one of them gang unit conferences and just really just teach them, tell them, say, what you don't know, what you know is nothing. But obviously they won't let you.
But that takes me to
You
my
didn't
next.
ask.
Yeah, that takes me to my next question about the reentry process. Did you have a reentry process?
I didn't actually. When I made parole to Houston. Because while I was in prison, I worked in the officer's dining room, preparing the food for the officers. I was a cook. And the parole lady was a really good friend of mine, so we say, because I cooked for her every day. And she pulled me to the side one day and she said, Jose, she said, if you really want to go home, she said, you'll try to parole somewhere else. They're not going to let you go back to Fort Worth. Said, go somewhere else, stay for a little bit, and then you can go back home. I should have told y'all the story about the interview with the parole lady, but so I paroled to Houston, and they gave me this thick packet of resources, right? Probably about 15,000 numbers on there, and I must have called every bit of 14,980 of them, and not one of them was the right number. There was no resources. There was no re-entry for me. My re-entry came when I met Charleston back here in the free world. When he started teaching me about HYPE. HYPE is an acronym for helping young people excel. That was my re-entry. I didn't have no. One of the things that I kept in mind before I left the Walls unit was a man that came, he had done 30 years and he always goes to talk to everybody the night before they come home. And he said, man, one of my points of advice to you is that when you go home, you don't try to play catch up. He said, just roll with the punches. And I always kept that in mind. Don't try to go back to 91 and catch up. Just day at a time, do what you can. That was kind of my re-entry there.
Did you really, so we have rehabilitation, incapacitation, incarceration. So we know we know about the incarceration. We know about the incapacitation. But what about the rehabilitation? What do you think prison did for you that was good and what was bad? I know you talked a little bit about some of the negative things in prison.
For me, I had to figure things out myself because you have to understand that I grew up there. 14 to 36, that whole time span there, I had to grow up and learn on my own. So those first years, let me say the first 12 years, were spent doing what I wanted to do. Being a rascal, you know, doing everything that we used to call having fun in prison. But it wasn't until 2006, I believe. It was the anniversary of my dad's passing. And I woke up one day and I was in administrative segregation for fighting. And my head just like clicked, like, dude, what are you doing? You're right here in a single man cell, locked down 23 hours a day. You are everywhere that you didn't want to be. And I read a book. I was reading a book, and I started to snap, like, it's time to go home, man. or at least try. And so I started to write out my plan to go home. I was in administrative segregation. I had to go through a program to get out of SEG, and started to write my plan out, go through this program, go back to population, get a job, make parole, go home. And my plan that I wrote down and visualized and thought of in my head came to fruition just as I had wrote it down. But the rehabilitation for me was when I met Mr. Poor. He started to really teach me, because I was a grown man already, but I wasn't a man yet. You know what I mean? Like mentally, I was still a 14-year-old kid. And he started to teach me about life, I mean, he would literally pull me to the side and we'd have hours of conversation. That's where the being accountable for all your actions came from him. And I used to tell him, man, I can't memorize all that stuff on the paper. I'm ADD or whatever you call it. And he said, that's bullshit. He said, I'm gonna prove it to you. And we had to do a paper, and we had to memorize it back and front. And just like unconsciously, he called my name first. And I got up there and I said it word for word. And he says, don't ever tell me about that ADHD or whatever. Don't ever use that as a crutch anymore. And he taught me about change. He started trying to teach me about change. And he said, change starts with you. He said, I'll never forget the things that he told me, that when you want to change, you have to change for yourself before you can change for anybody else. And I try to teach people close to me that, because a lot of people want to change for your mom or your dad or whoever is around you, but those are crutches. If you change for them, you don't change for yourself first, when they pass or when they leave, your crutches fall, then you fall. But if you change for yourself first, then you don't need no crutches. You can change for whoever you want to change for, or you can change the things around you. That's kind of how I started to rehabilitate myself, started to try to change the way I thought, kind of got away from the everyday prison life, so to say, and started trying to, that's how I got the job in ODR. And you mentioned our friend Terrence. My last 2 years we worked in ODR together, and he had a master's degree. And he started to teach me, say, hey man, you gotta start learning how to communicate with these free world people, not these prison people. And so when you're cooking for these people, they come in and you talk to them right, you serve them like they're humans, versus on the child line for the inmates, like, here man, here. Now you can't have no more. You don't communicate with free world people like that. It's different. So I guess that's where my rehabilitation came from.
Okay, well, any other questions?
I got one. How about you?
No, you go ahead.
Do you remember like the first day, out feeling you had, like the moment you got it was like, I know there was like phones down, like is it?
Yeah.
How did you get yourself together?
I got out December 13th, 2000. No, I got out December 2nd, 2013. I'll never forget, because when I got to the Walls unit, which is where they release you from, I was supposed to go home Friday, right?
Mhm.
But it was really cold, snowing. The computer system went down. So in TDC, when the computers go down, don't nobody move. It's lockdown, period. So I said, damn. I said, I've been waiting all these years to go home, and now something like this. So the weekend passes by, slow. Monday morning, come wake you up about 3:30, take you out to the chain room. You're just standing there waiting on your name. And they get down to the R's. They get like, okay, what y'all waiting on? My name, I tell say I'm Rodriguez. He's like, nah, man, those discharges going home first. I was like, okay. A couple hours passed by. I'm like, what's going on? So So they finally take us back to the back house back there where they get you your clothes. So I had a few stamps on me. I tell the dude, say, man, give me something decent to wear. He said, I got you, I got you. And I walked out. I had on some brown slacks and a clown shirt, like butterfly collar back in the day. And I was like, man, this cat just took my stamps. And so, but you know, I was scared. I was happy, but you know, I was scared. Cause when the officer called, he says, hey, he said, Rodriguez, you can go. So which way do I go? Where do I go? He said, you follow that sidewalk right there. You get to that corner wall, you make a left. See if your people are out there, they'll be out there. So I got my chain bag. Ain't nothing but some paperwork and pictures. So I walk up to the corner, I turn the corner, and I just see a bunch of people. Like you see on TV when they're advocating for death row and all that. That's the unit they release you from. So I was like, damn. So I start walking down the street, and I see my aunt. She's recording, and I see my mom, my brother. I said, man, let's get the hell out of here. What y'all waiting on? And so we go into to Huntsville, and for some reason I wanted to eat Chili's, but they didn't have Chili's in Huntsville at the time. So went to the restaurant, ate, and it was my first time sitting down with my family and just like talking, you know, just kind of discussing like, how do I feel, and I was like, good. But inside I was really, really very scared. But later on, when we got to Houston, I told Charleston this, we went to the place called DD's, buy underwear, boxers, you know, most shirts and stuff. And I didn't know that the cash register things were monitors now, you know. So this lady, she's on the monitor and she's like this, and I'm over here, and she turns around and she says, "Are you staring at my ass?" and it took me back, kind of shocked me. And I was like, no, ma'am. I said, no. I said, I'm just trying to see what that is. And then my sister-in-law went off on her. You stupid.
Right.
He just got out of prison. He's trying to figure out what this is, you know. But I didn't know what it was, you know. But that whole night, I was actually very, very scared. I didn't go to sleep till about 4 o'clock in the morning. I'll tell you a quick story. A few days, I'd been out about a week, and I was in the living room. My sister has a huge house. I was in the living room by myself, and I was crying. And she said, she just happened to walk in, and she said, "What's wrong with you?" I said, "Man, I don't know if I can do this." And she said, "Do what?" I just told her, I was like, "This is too fast for me." I said, "I can't do it." She said, "Oh," she said, "You can shake that shit off." She said, "You ain't going back to prison." And I had to get up. I had to make myself get up and just say, "You know, you're home. You're home for good now." But I was scared for a long time. To answer your question.
To answer yours, Professor Owen, a lot of people focus on rehabilitation. But if you had never been really taught right, how can you, what point can you rehabilitate from, right? We went through a juvenile system that focused on re-socialization. Somebody step on your shoes, excuse me, thank you. Re-socialization it focused on thinking components, thinking areas, separating your thoughts from your feelings, learning empathy, having remorse. Those are things that you really learn as a child. When you taught to say thank you, please, excuse me. Those are normal traits that we learn when we come from a two-parent home. Some people aren't taught how to do what's right. Some people are just grow up and the conditions that they're in. Go ahead.
Okay, I didn't want you to leave where you're at right now because what you're saying is gonna go with my question.
Okay.
Now, this question is kind of extensive, but it'll tie in. First, okay, I'm from the hood, I'm from South Dallas, but most of my family is in gangs and things like that. So what I'm asking is because of what you just said, do you feel like that if there were, and I'm asking this because there's a lot of statistics and society says a lot about things that have to do with politicized neighborhoods or in the hood. And there's even one that goes along the lines of they start counting jail cells based on what you do in the second grade if you're a black in the hood. So what I'm asking is if there were, do you feel like, not knowing what you know now, but if you were going, if you could put your mind back into where you both were back then as kids, do you feel like that if there was more counseling and therapy and more mentorship in the hood, do you feel like that you would still make the same decisions?
No. I would have been where you are. I would have been talking how you're talking. That's all I need. That's all I need. Well, you hit like two generations when you say counseling. We're suffering from what many call a dual diagnosis: substance abuse problems and mental health problems. Many young boys in school, second, third, fourth grade, they're on medication. Many a time it's for behavior modification. And so what happens when you get 13, 14, and you can run away from home, you can steal a beer out of a store, you start self-medicating. So now you're not taking this medicine on top of the environment. So when you look at what we come out of, the environment, when you look at what we listen to from the headphone, we need counseling. We need counseling. And so when I go inside the juvenile facilities and I say, hey man, what's different about today's children compared to us? It's the dual diagnosis. We just needed counseling. We wasn't on drugs. He was a rare kid to be getting high the way he was getting high. But when we was 11, 12, 13, children wasn't getting high. We wasn't walking around drunk.
Right. So, you said something that I was about to touch on, but
Learning right from wrong.
I actually I have more respect, and I may not be able to because I'm not very blunt on everything, but everything that y'all do is much easier to me than y'all may understand. So that's why I asked that question, because there's a lot of people that actually think that it wouldn't make a difference if it was for some kind of therapy and counseling and everything. But you knowing that I could have very well been in those situations that y'all are in, but I was too much of a smart ass and I told you some type of person to actually indulge. But I was around it too, and I didn't just want that person for you. I had it for you too. I wanted to know if that was something that you would.
Oh, definitely, man. It would have helped out a lot. I actually had counseling when I was younger, like I was telling my mother, it wasn't her, it was just something that I chose to do. You know.
And see, that's what the capital offender group was. It was intense therapy and counseling. And then throughout the day, we had group sessions. So that's why I was highlighting on Professor Owen's point. We went through a program of re-socialization. we got re-socialized. So that's what the whole group therapy was. Man, we had to relearn what was right from wrong.
I want to say for the Hispanic culture, you know, and back then, you had people that were older than us that used to implement this idea in your head, which going to prison was a badge of honor, which is so stupid to look back now. You know what I mean? Like, I tell these kids, like to say, bro, don't never go to prison. I don't wish that on nobody. Don't think that nobody respects you because you haven't been to prison. No, stay out of here, please. But back then we had, you know, people that recruited, but that was their thing. You know, implement this in their head. You got
put that work in.
I think it's very good that y'all organization is multicultural as well, because what you're saying isn't that far from the black community. Like, I mean, not everybody in the black community can relate to it, but I can relate to it. And what you're saying is very true. I have uncles who are whatever, they just sum it up. And for the most part, whenever I get around them and we're having certain conversations, some of my cousins follow behind me, and they don't understand that they are something that they look up to. No matter what they do, my cousins are looking up to them. And I had told my uncle recently who got out, he was selling some weed in front of me or whatever. I see it all the time, so it doesn't bother me. And I told him that what you do made me not want to do nothing that you do. So I learned from you. It pissed my granny off because she's sensitive about her kids, and she just like watching out. And I'm like, they gonna be a lot of your kids because of what they do. It made me not do it, and that's what made me ask the question. But what y'all do is do your thing.
Perfect example. Most boys are taught to fight. They're not taught to resolve conflicts. They're not taught to resolve problems. They're not taught conflict resolution. They taught to fight. So when I see my friends teaching their sons how to fight, I say, man, I ain't taught my son how to fight. He'll learn self-defense, but I'm not teaching him how to fight. So but we don't know that, right? Until we sitting across from a probation officer, or until we being put in handcuffs, or until we have to face a judge, and we realize all the things that we was taught either from our community or from our home had led us up to this point have been wrong. So when you're in prison and you realize all the stuff that you've been taught and you learned was BS, where did you build from? So that's where your mentors come in at. You know, that's where you're being in the right environment, having the right mindset, or being in such a hard situation and condition, you're forced to do what he did. 24-hour lockdown. You're forced to look at yourself and go to reading books. And then in the process of you wanting to do something different and be something different, there are going to be people placed along your path that's going to say, hey, go that way. Hey, man, go that way. So none of us is left out here alone. It's just that our communities, man, and our ideologies and our belief system hinder us in many ways.
Yes. So you said that you and your friend from back north was that brought like the influence of the Latin Kings to Fort Worth. So did you guys have some kind of initiation into it, like they do, or was it just like?
Yeah, it was, back then for us, it was because we were all just starting. All of us, the first 5 of us, we all fought each other, you know, clicked each other in, or whatever. But the whole initiation system is so different nowadays.
What about females that would, were there females?
In the beginning, there wasn't. There are now, and I think first female didn't come along. I think she came along in 91. And she had get initiated just like us. There was no, as you know, people might thought we were running training on her. There was no.
Them black boys running train. Black guys, they running train. Yeah, they said
There wasn't.
So was her role in the gang any different than yours as a male?
Not in the beginning. You know, it was she was just hanging out with us because we were so young. You know, it was drinking and partying. And, you know, she was there with us. You know.
Yeah, she's still tough today.
She's an old woman now, but she's still, you know, still around.
His co-defendant just recently got, how much he get? 75 years. He killed his children's mother, boyfriend on Easter, in front of his children. We was all at the park together. So he had been working with us with the kids in the community.
And he was, as I told the gang and the dude about the graffiti on the walls, he was the one that initiated it all. He was the one that really started to control the gang violence, to come down, you know what I mean? So he had all the right ideas that's trying to atone all the wrongs, you know, but
He had too many demons. He had too many demons. he committed this murder in front of his son. In front of his son. So his son got to deal with that. But he got to deal with the fact that we done been to almost every juvenile facility in the state. And we done talked to thousands and thousands of children. They go see him in there. And he got to deal with that shame. He gonna have a walk of shame for 75 years, homie, because we done talked to million children. I still cry on the inside for the murder he committed. Because he was a good dude. He just made a horrible decision, and he killed a good dude.
Is this the person that you were telling me about the last time you were here?
No.
Or this is,
But his COVID thing,
because it sounds like the exact same story. Okay.
something totally different.
So do you like, for both of y'all, what are y'all hobbies, like, fun hobbies? What do y'all do, like, now that y'all didn't think?
I'm real antagonistic on social media.
Yeah.
I just got an iPhone, so I just learned how to make memes. Yeah, I'm kind of like I like being antagonistic on social media. So I spend about 12 hours a day doing it.
I play poker all day.
On your phone?
Poker.
On your
But
phone?
on your phone or like with actual cards?
With cards.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, he made it possible for the Latin Kings to come back to the black club. So before then, the other leader was the hothead. When he get drunk, it's gonna be a war between the blacks and the Mexicans. So the old man, he barred the Latin Kings from coming, off into the community, and hanging out at this one particular spot. So when he got out and heard about, the issue between the blacks and the Latin Kings, he came down and made it right. So the old man took the band off of them. They can come back and party with it. But we would have had to kill each other had the other one kept the reins. And so, man, this is what redemption really looks like, I promise. So he just finished his 30-year parole, 22 and a half years, been out about 10 years, 8 years. So, man, law-abiding citizen. Well respected in the community.
do you talk to him for the minute?
Yeah, I haven't spoken to him in a couple of months, but I try to send him some money. I'm not up to the writing because I'm still kind of upset.
About what he did?
Yeah, about what he did, the choices that he made, how he made it, and the fact that I kind of feel like he left me out here alone. You know what I mean?
What was his sentence? In the beginning?
75 years.
Before,
Oh, in the beginning, he had a 15-year sentence.
so he was out in society,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, he did.
When I came home,
He did the 15. He got out, stayed out, 30 days, 2 months, went back in on assault on a police officer.
three,
Yeah,
and got out, stayed out 8 years. And got this murder.
by the time you made it out, he
By the
stayed out
time
8
I
years.
came home, he had already been home. Okay, like 3 years.
they had been on 5 years by the time we came.
Yeah, like 5 years by the time I came home.
So they did a year together, probably a year and a half, 2 years together.
Do you think doing the 21, 22 years in prison was like a blessing in disguise? But you did say the first 10 years you was having fun. Damn man.
Yeah, it was, in a sense, because you pay attention to coincidences in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how my life was. Like, even through prison, man, I've been in so many situations where things could have just went all the way left. It just so happened that we just went. So had I been out here, all the 90s, ain't no telling what would have happened.
So, so going to, okay.
Alright, we'll come back to you.
What years were you in Houston?
I got out in 2013, December, and I didn't stay there like 3 months.
Oh, okay. I was gonna ask if you had seen any like gang presence there, cause like around that time was when I was in middle school, like going into high school, and in the area that I was in, it was the black kids versus the Hispanic kids, like, all day long.
Whatever.
Tascasita.
I don't know about that area out there. There is a lot of gang presence out there in the northeast and southeast. You know, there's Latin Kings everywhere. It's a worldwide organization. You know what I mean? Just had 1 million members, so they're all over the world. And if you really want to just look at it for what it really is, you go Google the Ecuador chapter in Ecuador, the country of Ecuador, and that's what Kingism is really about. They have their own university that don't believe in nothing that has to do with illegal criminal activity. Like literally, like they get to go. The free world members that are out in society, get to go into the prison system, and what we call hold church, and have meetings with these, the members that are locked up. Tell them, say, when you come home, that's what it's really about. There's the one country that really took it to the level of what it really was meant to be.
And that's my take on games, right? If you say you love what you say you love, then go make a difference. Don't lead everybody to prison and the graveyard. Don't make all our mothers cry. Don't kill all of the kids' fathers. But that's what it's been, right? It takes fathers away from children. It makes mothers cry over their sons. It destroys every aspect of what the community values. So I'm saying at some point, man, when we get grown or we develop a logical thinking brain, we can't look back and honor this foolishness. And so what we've been doing, we've been honoring it. Up until now, I've never heard of a game like what he just described. So this is my first time hearing about the Ecuador Latin King, that they got a university. They're not illegal. No, I didn't know that.
The government in Ecuador literally made them a legal organization, and they can legally congregate anywhere in Ecuador. They have a university where they go.
So that's interesting.
You just helped me come back to my question. So in a lot of our books, or a lot of books that I've read that have something to do with gangs, like you say, they don't know much about it. And when we go back to the deficiencies that we have in privatized neighborhoods, do you feel like that? I mean, can you touch on it? Because I'm pretty sure you feel like this. It's not. We always hear how hard it is to get into gangs, or that people want to get into gangs just to commit crimes. But isn't it indeed the fact that some people actually join those gangs because they're looking for some form of friendship, some form of leadership, some form of family, because they're feeling misunderstood? Can you touch on that some? Because we don't actually get a lot of that, and though I have the knowledge of it, it's not really something that is spoken about.
A lot of the time it's the zip code. A lot of the time it's just the area that you're in. Some of the time it's, like myself, I was looking for a father figure. I was looking for the camaraderie. I was looking for the brotherhood. Not necessarily the family unit of it. But that bait, or that excuse, is hidden.
That's what
for most people. Yeah, that excuse is hidden for most people. But we all ran to the game looking for something.
You know what I tell my nephew? I have a nephew that's really special to me, man, because he's super smart. Plays football. He's just a super smart kid, right? When my other nephew joined the gang behind my back, and I didn't know, I got so mad. I told everybody. I said, this nephew right here, he's off limits. I said, don't let me catch y'all trying to do nothing. And I told him, I said, don't let me catch you trying to get in this game. I said, because first thing you need to know, you need to learn how to stand on your own 2 feet. I said, don't never be afraid to tell nobody no. Because those are the things that I didn't know.
yes, man, yeah, let's go, yeah. But now, you like shit, you know? And you know, when I came home, like to go to the club here and there, but I'm driving my own car. So when I get ready to go, I say, peace, you know. But I tell the kids that, you know, you learn to stand on your own 10 toes, you know. Learn to say no.
And let me elaborate just a little bit more. We all ran to the game in search of something, in need of something. And when you find the ones who still in the gang and can't let it go, it still serves a need for them. Because if I let it go now, I ain't a man. I done built my whole life making wrong choices, hurting people. If I stop being this, what kind of man can I be? So that's why you see a lot of old fools still holding on to that badge of honor, because they don't have nothing else to stand on.
And then once again, there's the coincidence, you know. It's not that I still hold on, it's just that in my eyes, it's just me. It's nobody around me, it's just me. It's that I still have things to atone for. I still have these people to make them say, hey, what you're doing is not right. If you do this, man, I'm telling you, if you just follow this map right here, life will be so much better for you. And I've had more than a few listen, you know, but that's always been my thing is, why do you still hold on? Because I know I can change people's life. You know what I'm saying? So it's, the coincidence is that that's why you still hold on. But I don't entertain no hoop.
He's serving a need. He's trying to meet a need. I say this at all my public speaking engagements. I paid my debt to society, but I forever owe a debt to my victim. So when I hear him say that, I hear him paying his debt. So
Do you ever feel like guilt or like you're part of the reason that like, what word is? Because I want to sound mean.
sound mean, yes.
No.
Say it like it is. Get the best ounce out of
Do
it.
you ever feel like guilty that like you brought the Latin King presence to Fort Worth? Or is it one of those things where it's like, if I weren't done it, someone else was going to anyways?
No,
See, I told
I
you.
don't feel guilty, but I regret it.
That's what I was like. Do you feel like guilt or regretful?
When I say that, the explanation is that I wish I knew then what I know now, so that I hadn't left nobody in the blind. You understand? Like when I go do things now, even if I go to the store, I try to figure out from what do you want, make a list. So back then, we didn't know what we wanted. Just boom, just go. We're blind, you know, the blind leading the blind. And so a lot of things have happened over the years, you know, in my absence, that I wish I could go back and say, hey man, y'all did this wrong. You know, we're really supposed to do it like this. That makes sense.
What was like the difference in like when you had first started to like when you were gone and you came back and like the presence was still there? Like what was the
difference
how was
was that
like how did it feel knowing that you were gone for X amount of years and when you came back this was what it is now, as opposed to what it was when you were there?
when I first came home, when I seen how big things were, it kind of, you know, it overwhelmed me like, okay. But then when I got to see how things were, I was like, it's still tripping. You gotta make something happen. You gotta make a change somewhere. And I mean, I'm average Joe, but people tend to know. If I say something, people listen. Let's just say my main focus over the years has been trying to keep people free and keep people alive. So far,
We had a question, which young lady had a question?
Oh, I did. I had a question for you. You said, you talked to, I guess, the room officer, the room serving her, and she told you that the best way for you to get out is to promote somewhere else. do you think that that's probably half of the issue with most people, that they parole in their hometown and go back home?
A lot of
instead going
times it
somewhere else?
is. I was locked up with a lot of people. The last unit I was on when I was on Ramsey 1, it was one of the best units to go home from. They were letting a lot of people go home from there because it was a collegiate program unit, right? But a lot of people were using family members in other cities, like if you're from Houston, hey man, I got a cousin out in Dallas, can I make parole there? Yeah, and they were doing that. But a lot of people don't know that too, you know. TDC is huge, and a lot of people, they don't know. I was just lucky enough to be able to prepare this woman's food every day, but she's like, hey man, you know, you do this, like go home.
Yeah, because when you said it, I'm like, I've never heard anyone say they had the option to parole in another city that helped benefit them. Most everybody go home, but I know you said when you were going home, stay away from everybody, but you know, most people in their release, they go to what they remember. So they just go home or go see those same people or link up with those same people.
When you watch TV about gang stuff, or you hear stuff, or gang unit tells you, these experts say, yeah, these people get out of prison and they go back to their gang, and their gang gives them this and they give them that. Don't believe that shit. Ain't nobody gave me that. Everything I have, everything I own, because I own it, because I made it happen. I got some help along the way from somewhere, but that, yeah, you might come home and somebody will take you to go get a pair of J's, go get you a few shirts, and you know, but it's common courtesy, I think, you know what I mean? But no, it's not.
So I'm sorry, that was so rude. Okay, my last question for real, because I think I just forgot from laughing so hard. So,
I know, you think about it.
I really think I know it.
Okay, so I just turned 21 a couple months ago, right? And I remember you saying that you was scared when you came out of jail or prison, right? So I'm 21 and I'm quickly understanding of what adult life is. I have a credit card, car, bill, and stuff like that, right? When did you? I'm not saying that I'm scared of the future, but I'm kind of curious of how when does life is gonna. I know life is gonna go. How long did it take for that scaredness to go away?
I'm 30 and it's still not gone away. I'm 30 and it's still not gone away.
It doesn't so much go away. Like now that I'm off parole, I kind of get a little pep in my step.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
But I still pay attention.
Yeah.
To what's going on around me. I still pay attention to what can or cannot happen. I still think. One of the things that I learned along the way was, always take the time out to just stop for a second and think. Because what you do in this half a second can get you a lifetime. And if you just stop and think about it, it could save you a lifetime.
Yeah. So I'm from Venezuela, and over there's not really like there's like gangs and las guerrillas, the militias, but there's not like a culture behind it, I guess I should say, that is so prevalent for everybody. Why is it so prevalent here in the US, like in music, movies? If y'all, obviously, like that's more like a theoretical question. Like, why do you think that's?
Me myself, I don't get into the music like I ain't with the gang type music. I got a nephew who raps, and it's just not none of my thing. I don't know how to answer that.
It's American culture. When you think of Lone Ranger and Tonto, when you think of cowboys and Indians, when you think of Rambo, America has a culture and a cycle of violence that it propagates and projects. through movies, right? So it's American. When you look at the movie Gangs of New York, that's actual history. That's historical. This is everybody's not in Russia. Everybody's not in China. Everybody's not in North Korea. Everybody's here. So, and to a certain aspect, gangs had to form for survival. So many people here, too many different languages, 99 different tongues here. So, out of survival, you form. Music-wise, it's only our culture to be gangster in entertainment. They're starting to transform into what that culture is. They still have corridos. You see, when you think about the Chalino Sanchez, that's cultural. I'm sure somewhere in Venezuela they rapping gangster.
just like they idolize the gangster rap. Mexican culture, we have it. They have. I'm sure y'all see it all. El Chapo, Mencho, and so on and so forth. They idolize them in songs too. It's just in a different version.
So I think Hollywood plays a bigger part in why we embrace it here in America, because we get it more on the big screen. So Pablo Escobar, we loved him from American citizens, but our government needed him to be eradicated. But he's a martyr, and he sold most of the drugs in this country.
Oh. One more question. One more question, because I have to be here in this classroom tomorrow at 9:30.
Oh, okay.
So Vina, this is the last question.
So I have a family member who's going to be released here in a few months, and I've actually never met him. He was sent away before I was born, so I can only imagine like how much he's missed like here. So what can I do, like as someone who has come out, what can I do to support them since they've missed so much?
How many years have you been gone?
I'm 22, so a little over 22 years. I think he's pushing like 30.
First thing I would tell you is that
He doesn't know who I am. Like he's been gone since before I was born. Like my mom and my dad have all three of us, and I don't even think he knows we exist.
Is your brother?
No, he's one of my uncles.
the first thing y'all can tell them is don't try to play catch up. Don't try to play catch up, because nothing out here is the same. Nothing out here is the same as it was when you went away. The neighbors from across the street probably don't live over there anymore. You know what I mean? The store that was down the street probably isn't there anymore. So when you try to play catch up, you go wrong. Second thing, one of my friends told me, when you get to the world, because we had all these business plans. We're on the college unit. We got all these business plans, like people writing business plans, people doing it. When you get to the world, you hit an invisible wall. If he has plans, support his plans and encourage him to follow them, because if not, you're gonna get that invisible wall. And then I would think nowadays one of the best things to teach him is about credit. Credit is king.
I guess like I ask you this because he was arrested back in Laredo and he served in Huntsville, but he's coming up here, so he's never been here. If he did, it was years
I
ago.
would tell you to stay away from it. That would be my advice. Y'all don't know each other, right? Think
No.
about this. You don't know what he's gone through in prison. This ain't your uncle. Y'all just related. So once you go to him, then what obligation do you have to him?
I don't. I know that.
That's
I
what I'm
don't.
saying. So you
But on
could
the flip
cause
side-
more problems. Let me just say this. Let me just be real with you. Man, you don't know how perverted these guys are coming from prison. So I tell all people, man, watch your sisters, watch your aunts. You have to observe these people first. You're a young lady.
Oh, I would never go by myself.
You're a young lady. He has a brother who can say, hey, look out, bro, let me help you out. Not his niece. Not his niece. Not his ultimate younger niece. You stay focused on school. You don't need to wrestle with his demons. That's for his mother. That's for his children.
not his niece. That'll take you somewhere you don't even wanna go, trying to aid a man that's been gone to prison before you was born. No, let him be. He got, men need to say, come on, homie, I got you. Not his niece, not his sister. Say, come on, homie, I got you.
Because to be real, the first thing he's gonna ask is, man, you going to college? You got one of them girls. Swear to God.
Or in his mind, you ain't my niece. Who would it's you? You gotta always keep that in mind. You gotta, even my brother, he been gone 30 years. Even when he come home, no, man, the last thing that needs to be in the presence of a man coming home from prison is a woman. It's the last thing, and you're not his mother. Because it puts you in a situation that you don't have no idea that you're in. It places him in a situation to have to wrestle with whatever demons that you don't know he's wrestling with. So first, y'all sit back from afar, check it out. Don't be up on him. Hey, how can I help you?
Yeah.
No.
When you say sit back and far, you have to sit back and see where not even up close, just from the back, see where his mindset is, because you don't know. You'll tell y'all will be able to know within the first few days, first couple weeks, whether he's going back to prison or whether he's gonna stay home. It's gonna be that simple. It's gonna be that simple.
Did he answer your question, Davina?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Okay, great. All right, we're gonna wrap it up. Can we get a round of applause for these gentlemen? Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Where you recording? Where the camera at? Up there?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
For students who didn't get the opportunity to see you too.
Professor, I got a question.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I mean, yes, sir. I mean, yes, ma'am.
Who, me or him?
Me?
Well, for your organization, not for you specifically.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh, for him. Oh, you have a question?
Yeah,
No, I'm just asking, do they got contact information?
Yes.
for their organization?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you got a card?
No,
Yes.
Okay.
After the class, you can come up there and exchange information if you have it.
I forgot why I stopped printing business cards.
Okay.
I forgot why I stopped doing it.
All right. Well, we're gonna wrap this up
The
tonight.
digital ones now.
That's
Instead of the
what
QR
it
code.
We gonna wrap this up
We're
now.
gonna wrap it up. If you all wanna stay and talk to the gentlemen, more than happy. But right now, class is dismissed. Thank you.
Professor's like, Don, go.
You wanna go home?
He does. I would too.
So I would give you pressure to go. So that's why I
No, we're not there, so I just want to move to the next stage. No, I was really serious.
Tomorrow morning?
No, not tomorrow morning, man. I'm lecturing tomorrow. We'll talk about OJ tomorrow.
I'm sorry, Rose. What's that?
You so rude.
I know, but we didn't talk to you.
Game related, not
This
game.
one's on? Yeah. Okay.
I see.
Oh.
You didn't give me the podcast?
You didn't ask for it.
You have to remember from last class.
Come on, Justice.
Okay, so everything I asked for wasn't the right stuff.
I'm looking at Baylor,
So
just because of the job that I have now, I'd be able
What else
to
do you
work in the Waco area and still be able to go to school.
What are you looking for?
So I am a manager at a Pilates studio, but a Pilates, it's like yoga, kind of like yoga.
I don't know
It's like a
how
mixture of
I
like
can
yoga
help,
and calisthenics.
You study criminal justice?
But
No.
they have
What's your
this
name?
teacher training program and you can learn to be an instructor. And I would work half the time and get more than double the pay,
older than you?
so that I could work a lot less but still be making money, cause I pay rent, I live, I do the things. And I would have to do the same thing if I moved to Waco. And I know that there's one down there, cause one of the instructors that I work with now used to teach there, and she was like, well, I can help you
So situations like
if
this,
you
I
get,
would-
like, if you decide to do that, so.
I I see what I can do.
We looking all in there. Well, I'm all over the internet, so,
Where do I
Yeah,
find
I
you
wanna-
at?
type the name in. You got the number, so yeah, you type the name.
Do y'all need anything?
Always,
Supportive wise.
always.
Blue, you got my phone?
That's what.
Yeah, I got them. Always. Time, volunteer, you got the contact.
Volunteer what?
Suffice for you for the night.
Do y'all speak with a lot of girls?
No, I don't work with it. I need women to come work with it.
Appreciate it, appreciate it.
We try to stay, we try to stay away from girls.
Think they want to talk.
Y'all, cause you walking to the one, y'all know how to get back to the car, right?
Yeah.
Y'all know y'all over there by the book.
Oh, we way over there.
That way. So when you come out the middle, it's that way.
Hey,
You asking about girls, so.
hey, let me call you right back real quick. I'm in class. I'll call you right back as soon as I finish. All right.
Appreciate you, bro. You buying me lunch tonight? Okay. Buy me tiny tacos. Really? Well, just call me, man, I don't work with girls, but I can put girls before you. I work
Hey,
with
how you
young
doing?
women
You all right?
in murder, so I work on a lot of capital murder and death penalty cases. So, but we're always needing girls to come talk to the girls, so if you got time to talk to the girl, say, hey, this is my free time. I'm gonna say, hey, Miss King, I got a woman to come over and talk to the girl, but if you want the girl to talk to you, then you don't have that. You won't have no girls just come tell your story. Right. Yeah, we need some people to come mentor, interact, engage. We got a lot of time.
I should be right down by the
Walk straight
restroom.
down that way.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate
Yes,
it.
ma'am. It's cold.
It's
No,
cold.
Cause it is.
Oh boy, this thing still going. Class and emptied out and this thing still going.